Well, I would like to share a private story with you guys. I have 2 children, and recently my mom started to nag me about bringing the third one because she says I'm not getting any younger. But honestly, I can barely handle 2, so I tell her I'm not planning any pregnancy soon. And she can really be a pain in the ass sometimes. So during the holidays, she brought forces with her. My aunts, my grandma, they were all showing me this graph they found on Google, proving that it will be extremely hard for me to get pregnant after the age of 35. She even consulted with her doctor about my health condition, okay? And he told her, I shouldn't be waiting anymore. Now is the time. Now, okay? And I panicked. Like, I really panicked. So I went to my doctor to figure out what are my real chances to get pregnant after the age of 35. And he said that I can wait, but not longer, which is unclear. What do you mean? I mean, how much? A year? 4 months? I don't know. Anyway, I was bothered and confused by all of this information. So later that day, I posted an anonymous post on a mother's private Facebook group. And I asked, who succeeded in having a healthy pregnancy after the age of 35? I received hundreds of comments from women sharing their successful pregnancy stories after the age of 35, and I also received dozens of recommendations for doctors and for other virtual communities to support me throughout the way. And all I see in my feed right now are pregnant women above 35. So I'm calm and I'm confident. I have decided to take my time. And now this is my truth. And now not only did I believe in it, okay, I've also become an expert in the field. So if you guys are considering a pregnancy after the age of 35, feel free to approach me after the presentation. Welcome to the post-truth era. Let's look at my story as an example for what we are experiencing in the world today. People today decide what the truth is according to their feelings and emotions at the expense of facts and rationality. And why is that? Well, for a few reasons. First, using the internet, the technology, the media, okay, generate a massive amount of information, disinformation, and misinformation whose reliability is almost impossible to examine. People today are so confused while trying to process so much information that they become distrustful towards everyone around them. They feel like the institutions of truth-telling, the courts, the press, the universities, are not offering them reliable information anymore. Trust in science is constantly declining, leading to uncertainty about scientific information. Not only that I don't trust my doctors, I don't trust the politicians that represent me, I don't trust the media, I don't trust anything other than myself. So people today replace objective facts with subjective interpretations, okay, based on emotions. Truthiness, okay, is a feeling of truth, and it replaces truth itself. Like, I didn't feel right about what the doctor said, so I interpreted the information according to my emotions and feelings. Truthiness is governed by the manipulation of algorithms, echo chambers, and bubble filters, which formulate our feeds to display content according to what we like, share, and search. People today can filter the information they consume to a point where they can completely avoid the encountering of other viewpoints than theirs. Moreover, they find an approval for their truthiness in these virtual communities that like their shares. You saw how quickly it was for me to get an approval for my truthiness. Now, the end result of all of these processes is extreme affective polarization of strong negative feelings towards other groups in society. And I guess the best example for that would be the elections. Last week, we had our fifth election, not 60th, fifth election. Thank God, not yet. Let's try to resolve it. Anyway, let me ask you a few questions. How many of you found it difficult to decide whom to vote? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you were engaged in discussions with people from different political views than yours? In these discussions, how many of you felt like you managed to influence the other position, like you managed to expand his knowledge about the issue discussed? No one. That is Oh, yes? Good, Gal. Good. Let's share with us after the presentation. Let us know what did you do that helped. And how many of you ended the discussion with a conclusion of let's agree to disagree, or you have your opinion, I have mine? You see, discussions became impossible in polarized societies. We end them with let's agree to disagree and hold on to our position even stronger than before. Look at where it brought us. We had 5 rounds of elections in less than 4 years. Now, this is a problem. And why is this a problem? Because according to the literature, democratic discussions are the drivers of democratic participation. Through democratic discussions, we learn how to, we exchange knowledge and positions with other people. We promote our positions, and we listen and reflect to their positions. And together, we work together, and we aim together for a shared conclusion or understanding or decision that will contribute to society's progress and well-being. So democratic discussions are needed for society to progress and flourish, and we also know that discussion, or the ability to discuss, develops through practice. And therefore, education for democratic citizenship becomes more urgent than ever today. And as a teacher, I'm a teacher, by the way, that's what I wanted to do with my students. I wanted them to get ready, to prepare them to practice democracy in extremely polarized societies. I wanted them to learn how to state a claim, how to give reason. I wanted them to practice collective decision-making and self-control while discussing controversial issues. Here you can see some of the discussions I had with my class. And I would be happy to say that the discussions ended with mutual understanding and collective decisions, but in reality, they always ended with a bunch of students screaming over each other. You're a racist, you're a traitor, you're so stupid, I hate you, I wish you, and you all know, of course, how it ends. So it isn't surprising that research shows that teachers shy away from democratic discussions, especially around controversial issues, because the students very emotional with their positions. They tend to be very emotional with their positions, and the teacher finds it extremely difficult to facilitate a respectful discussion. And as a teacher, I thought it is my fault. I thought I'm not good enough at facilitating a discussion in my classroom, or my students are too noisy for this method. But as a researcher, going into a deeper philosophical investigation of this issue, I realized that the problem is quite different. If we look at the preconditions that are needed for democratic discussion, we can see it requires trust and mutual respect. It also requires the participants. They must be equally informed about the position discussed. They must base their positions on factual truth and evidence. Democratic discussions rely on established knowledge only. They disregard, okay? They do not accept emotional truthiness. Now, these preconditions stand in complete opposition to the condition of post-truthful students. They are distrustful and disrespectful towards everybody around them. Some of them are misinformed students who are positive, okay, or confident that their position on the issue is the right one. Governed by their truthiness, they refuse to accept established facts and shared knowledge. So what do? Leaving them with this distorted, non-moral issues they hold, some of which are racist, stereotyped, hateful, avoiding discussions altogether? As philosopher of education, I believe that the proper response to this problem should be to try and bridge this gap between the theory of between the democratic theory and its educational approaches and the post-truthful societies and students. Democratic education is needed within the classroom today, okay? Because our societies are really facing the risk of losing their own democracy. If we want to respond to the decay of truth or democracy, we should offer teachers and educators practical tools and methods for how to promote democratic discussions within their classrooms. So what I'm currently doing is a synthesis between the educational democratic theories and approaches and the condition of post-truthful students. And in accordance with the findings of this synthesis, I intend to develop a practical pedagogy that could be applied, that will be applied in our educational system. I want to make sure today that the Israeli citizens of tomorrow will do a better job than us in promoting a strong, cooperative, respectful, and peaceful society to live in. And perhaps, if we'll manage to implement democratic discussions within our educational system today, maybe future elections will reoccur, as they should, only once in every 4 years. Thank you for listening. I will be happy to take questions.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Menachem from the Weizmann Institute. Of course, it's a highly important topic, and thank you very much for sharing this. Do you have, can you share with us some preliminary conclusions on how to, again, bridge this gap that you described between what you were aiming for and the crappy situation we're in right now?
Yes, thank you for the question. So I think it relates to Orian's discussion from earlier about our role as philosophers within the sciences or within the research field. And we see that the democratic discussions, the theories, okay, that democratic discussions derive from are very, very, they are not connected to reality at all. And we see that there is a missing gap, like there is something that is missing, and it is, of course, within the field of education. So we found that there is a huge gap between the theory, the philosophical theory, and its approaches to the field of citizenship education within universities, like faculties of learning and studying education as a whole. Now, when there is such a gap, we cannot apply the theory into practice. We don't even use it, and we cannot even try to understand how to experiment with it or how to apply it in our educational system with empirical research. So what we see right now, what I see, as long as the research progress, is the first thing, there is a gap between the philosophical foundations of democratic education and what we see today in citizenship education within the classrooms. And the second main problem is the issue of emotions. Because classical theories, as you know, they presume that emotions are not part of the thinking process, okay? It's as if people think that if you come and show me a fact or evidence, I'm supposed to understand and say, oh, okay, so this is the truth, then okay, I understand now. But this is not what's happening today. Today, people sort of like processing things differently. Now, there is empirical research that is going on by psychologists already on this issue, and we try to sort of take the empirical research and bring it to the field of philosophy of education in order to understand how can we find how can we bridge the two. I don't have an answer to that yet. And the third problem is, of course, the problem of trust. Because if we cannot trust the people that we are sitting with them to a discussion, we cannot have a discussion, and without shared understanding or like shared knowledge or something to sort of like expect from the other person, then we cannot discuss. I hope I answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Omri from Ben Gurion. Thank you for this wonderful presentation, such an important topic.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, what's your thoughts about, because obviously this gap is super important, but what is the role here of the time that is invested in educating for democratic discussions? I mean, not just the content, not just the what we need to educate for, but how much, and I'm wondering if there is any tension between that and other fields that we're educating for, such as math, sciences, and for the high-tech industry, etc.
Okay, thank you. I hope I understand your question. You're asking like how do we?
Not the what. Sorry, not wondering about not just the what, which you explained great, but the how. I mean, how much resources do we have to internalize all these new ideas, and how much time is devoted to these to this important topic within the educational system?
Okay, so I'll try to understand according to my understanding. I'll try to answer, but the Ministry of Education is really occupied with this issue. Okay, so they're developing a lot of programs, and there is a lot of media literacy, for example, and especially in the science, במה שנקרא מדעים, in science, we talk a lot about post-truth in terms of how do we understand facts, okay, and how do we accept facts. But there is another problem here, and it's the problem of affective emotions that influence us and sort of like frustrates our ability to understand that what we're seeing here is a factual truth. And the Ministry of Education is doing a lot of things in different fields of education and knowledge, but not in education for democratic citizenship. And that is the problem, because we can teach our students how to, promote evidence, or how to search for, through inquiry, for knowledge or for a better understanding of the world, but we also need to teach them how to communicate with people and how to discuss and how to share their positions with others, or how to influence others' position within a discussion. Did I answer? I'm not sure, Omri, I'm sorry. Yes? Okay.
Last question. Hi, thank you. I am Shir from the Hebrew University. I have maybe a basic question, but we talk about fact, like scientific fact or fact in general, but I would maybe it's like the opposite of what you talk about, but I'm not sure that like there is in the attack in Tel Aviv, like Pigua, I'm not sure that the attack is the word. The BBC in Britain published it as a man got shot, people got shot in Tel Aviv, Palestinian guy died. This is the fact. People got shot in Tel Aviv, Palestinian guy died, but this is just part of the fact. Like a Palestinian guy come to Tel Aviv to a bar and shot as Israeli people because they were Israeli. So those are also the facts. So the difference in the media was not on the fact themselves in this case, but on the context. So how do you deal with this in your, like you came from the point that there is a fact, like a one true fact. But in this case, all the things that I said were the facts. How can you deal with that?
So we do have facts, of course, that are that sort of like tie all of us together, right? Because that's how we understand the world. And there are interpretations for facts, okay? So we can sit with this article together as a class or as adults, doesn't matter, and try to evaluate all the information that we've seen in this article. This is called media literacy today. And we try to evaluate all the positions, all the arguments, and we try to come to sort of a better understanding of what did we see here. The fact that it's published on the newspaper doesn't mean that it's a fact. We understand that today. We need to try and evaluate the information that we see according to sort of like it's a set of characteristics that we need to have today. And I try to think about it through the philosophical lenses of democratic education, which is kind of different from the lenses of scientific education or the lenses of, I don't know, media literacy. Because here we are talking about facts that are sort of different. For example, students can say, I think that the Palestinians are not equal to me. They're not human beings. And you need to negotiate about this fact, which is a fact, of course, right? Because all human beings are equal. I mean, it's not something to open to a discussion, right? I mean, we should say like, yeah, of course, everybody are equal. That's humanity. We're all equal. But the students, they start to see things differently according to their emotions, and that's the problem. So how does the teacher facilitate this? Like, how does she explain? Because, and I'll tell you another thing, Omri, by the way, about your asking, what you asked before. When I will come as a teacher and I'll say to my student, Liran, that was a very racist thing to say. You cannot say that because all humans are equal, right? I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do as a teacher. What will happen, and research already shows that, is that they will become even extremely hateful towards me and my positions, and it will intensify their negative feelings towards the Palestinians. It wouldn't help. What we thought is helping so far only makes them even more polarized and extreme to the other side. And if I want to get them closer to the center, like to the truth, let's say, on such an issue that you wouldn't think it's even controversial, but apparently it is, then I need to think of a different method to do it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Liat. I'm sure we have more questions.
Thank you.
But we don't have time. Thank you.